So I'm Ria George, and I am really excited to welcome you all to this very first session of our Ask an ACE program. So I work with the American Institute of Architects in Virginia, and we're really excited to be partnering with Virginia Department of Education's work-based learning program to host this series where we'll explore various careers in the ACE or architecture, construction, and engineering industry. So each session is going to bring in a different professional who will speak about their pathway into their career, how or if they prepared for it in high school, what kind of education or licensure is required, and then they'll tell you a little bit about their typical workday. After that, they'll answer as many questions as we can get to. So you can see the schedule here on the screen. Today's program's about architecture, but in the coming months, you'll also hear about engineering, contracting, land surveying, interior design, urban planning, and landscape architecture. And of course, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are many, many more professions that contribute to the industry, from the trades and craftspeople that help put the buildings together to the professionals that integrate the heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical systems into the building. And then of course, there's specialists that help work towards zero carbon, zero energy, equitable, resilient, and healthy buildings. So they're all a part of the process that creates the built environment. So if you're curious about any of these professions, if you haven't signed up yet, you can do so online at www.aiava.org/askanace. So I'll drop that link into the chat in just a moment. Of course, if you'd like to learn any more about these careers after participating, just let us know. We'll work to get you connected with various resources. There's AIA chapters all around Virginia, as well as associations with these professions that have loads of resources, from the ACE mentorship program and other places you can do job shadowing. So before I turn things over to our speaker today, I'm just going to touch on a couple of quick housekeeping announcements. If your connection to Zoom happens to fail, just hang on the line. You should get automatically reconnected. We're going to ask folks to stay muted unless you're asking a question, just to reduce some background noise. And our goal is to really help you discover what a career in the architecture profession is like. So there's lots of different kinds of architects and many, many different ways to practice. So please ask questions. If you're more comfortable popping it into the chat, you can do that. Or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask a question. Our speaker, Ashley, has encouraged you to ask those questions as they come to you, so no need to wait to the end. So with that, I am going to end my share and introduce our speaker today. I'm delighted to welcome Ashley Montgomery. She's a designer and an associate in the architecture firm Hanbury, working in their Norfolk office. So Ashley?
Cool beans. Thank you. So thank you all for talking with me today. As we mentioned, just, if you have questions and talking, feel free to pop in, put it in the chat. I want this to be fluid and make sure to capture all of your thoughts as we have this conversation. So I'm an architect and a little bit about my education. I went to high school in South Carolina, and my high school actually had a drafting program. So that's where I was introduced to architecture. Back then it was for hand drawing, but now it's more computer aided design, right? But that's where I was introduced to architecture. Coincidentally enough, though, a lot of my kind of internships that they set us up with during high school were at engineering firms. So I was able to work at the South Carolina Department of Transportation and a couple other local engineering firms through my architecture and kind of drafting program within my high school. So after I graduated high school, I actually decided to go into engineering. And I went to Old Dominion here in Norfolk, Virginia, to pursue civil engineering. And after I did civil engineering, I started working at a land surveying civil engineering firm for about 5 years or so. And I really enjoyed it. I know my path kind of started out with drafting and architecture, but something about the math of engineering was very alluring, and the ability to kind of problem solve. And so that was kind of my first life within the A&E industry, was being trained as an engineer. Um, Through my work of engineering and land surveying, I became really passionate about land management and conservation, kind of how the process of human culture in the built environment really impacts the way we carve up land, the way we build on land. And I wanted to have more of a voice in that conversation. So I decided to go back to school to get my master's in architecture, because architecture allows you to kind of be more creative in that space and deal directly with communities, and kind of deal directly with how our built environments are created on the land that we live on. So I went to Hampton University to get my master's in architecture, and I was there for 4 years. While I was at Hampton, I was exposed to a niche sector of architecture, which is community-based design and resiliency. I had a professor at Hampton University who had a studio, and that studio was very much focused on dealing with sea level rise and how do we adapt to that, mitigate that, and help our communities address the issues of climate change. So I spent 4 years within that studio, actually helped to co-teach that studio, to really kind of build my understanding of how can we start to incorporate the lessons learned from climate change, the data and the science behind that, into our designs for the built environment. And then how do we make sure that what we're designing is representative of the communities that we impact, and how do we create space for the communities to actually engage in that conversation of design. So then I graduated from Hampton with my master's in architecture, and I started working in Hanbury, which is a firm in Norfolk, Virginia. I would say, so I know that my path is kind of up and down all over the place. But what I really appreciate about kind of the A&E industry, and you guys will learn more of this when you talk to the other professions, is there's a lot of overlap with how we work and the impact of our work. So someone may start off as an engineer, someone may start off as an architect, but the capability to change what it is that you want to do or refine that skill set that you learned at the beginning is widely available. So as you think about this industry as a possible career path, make sure to explore all those opportunities, especially if there's something that really is of interest to you, that you really want to dive into. So I guess I can talk to you a little bit about what a day as an architect looks like. So as I mentioned before, my background is dealing a lot with resiliency in communities. So my day-to-day is actually dealing a lot more with planning, and dealing with the state, and dealing with a lot of policy, and understanding how can we design our communities better, and how can that inform zoning policies. And so that's really looking at what do we allow to be built on the land. And so my day starts usually 9 a.m. like most people. And I'll be honest, as an architect, we do work a lot. So it doesn't always necessarily end at 5. Going into architecture, it is a passion career. So you do devote a lot of time, a lot of hours, but it is because you're very passionate about what you're doing. And it's really about devoting the amount of time to a project and to a design to make sure that you're giving it your all, because you are creating this physical spaces that people and communities live in. And so it's really important that you kind of give your all to that. Make sure that you're doing that ethically and in a just way. So a lot of my time will revolve around talking with communities, kind of understanding what are their needs, what's impacting them from living a full, healthy, equitable life. and then working with them to try and create designs for their community that will allow them to be able to go to the grocery store down the street, or be able to take a walk with their kids or their dog on a sidewalk that may lead to a park, or to create art and sculpture within their community. So that way there's something for everyone in the community to enjoy. So a lot of my work throughout the day is collaborating. So not just with architects, but with the community. So people like you all and your neighbors, and really trying to understand what it is that I can offer my skill set to make sure that you are excited to live in the neighborhoods and the cities that we live in. So I'll pause there in case anyone has any questions kind of about the education of architecture, or what it's like to kind of pivot in your life. Because I know it's not common, but it is very welcome, I would say, within the career industry that we're in. So I'll pause there for a moment, but then if there's no questions, then I can talk a little bit more about the technical side of the profession. And so that's all about licensure and what it means to actually be able to legally practice architecture and engineering in the communities in the state that I work in.
So feel free to unmute if you've got a question, or pop that right into the chat. I'm curious too if folks in the audience know any architects. So if you know one, please just give us a little thumbs up. I know lots of them, so I'm gonna thumbs up. All right, actually, I don't see any questions coming in. So if you'll share a little bit more about what it takes to become an architect, that'd be awesome.
Okay. So there's two parts to becoming an architect. There's the education part that I mentioned earlier. And then there is the licensure side. So if you're very much interested in becoming an architect, it's important that you really investigate what schools are available to you. Not every school is the same, and not every school is going to teach you the same things. Architecture schools have philosophies that they live by. And so one school might be very focused on making sure you know how to engage with communities. Another school might be very technically focused. So it might be more geared towards being more compatible with an engineer, I'll say. And then some schools are very artistically focused, right? They want to see what are the grandest ideas that you can come up with and then design through that. So it's really important to look at the schools and look at what their programs are and kind of think through, well, how do you want to engage with design? And how do you want to learn about designing communities and designing the built environment? The second component to looking at what school you would want to go to is to understand that school is accredited. So architecture is a professional degree. And in order to practice that legally, and when I say legally, I mean, we get this little cool stamp with our name on it, kind of like a notary stamp. And the only way you can have that is if you have gone to an accredited program and then paid for licensure. So if the school you're going to is not accredited, it will be really hard for you to become licensed. So it'll be very hard for you to be able to get that kind of stamp label saying that I'm an architect, because technically, like I practice architecture, but I'm technically not an architect until I get that license. So that's the relationship between kind of the title of architect and that notary stamp that I talked about. And so if your school is not accredited program, it's going to be hard to get that. But if your school is accredited, then it's easier to then follow that licensure process. Most schools offer 4 years for your bachelor's, and then most schools offer kind of like a year or 2-year tag along for you to be able to get your master's. It's not necessary to have a master's in architecture. And again, it varies depending upon program. Some masters of architecture programs are very educational focused. So they're rearing you to be able to teach at other institutions, while some are a bit more applied. I had a colleague who got his Master's of Architecture at Hampton, but then followed up with a secondary Master's of Urban Planning down in Florida. And so it is very much possible to kind of partner your degrees as well, especially if you find that you do have an interest outside of just building buildings. And so once you have your degree in architecture, you are then able to pursue licensure. And there's two components to licensure. And it's a very long, drawn out process. I will say that. I'm going to be honest about that. But what it does do is it allows you to build the expertise to be able to confidently sign off on a drawing or on a design and say, it is safe for people to live in this space. It is safe for people to experience life in this space. And so for licensure, you have to set up an account with NCART. And that's kind of like the governing body for architects. And what they do is they help you track your hours. So depending upon which state you live in, you have to have a certain amount of hours of expertise that you have to have. So you usually work with your employer to say, hey, I need expertise in understanding how to create a construction drawing, or I need expertise in how to manage a project. And you have to have a certain amount of hours gaining kind of that skill set, because these aren't things that are taught to you in school. So that's why it's important that when you do decide to work after you've graduated, that you pick a firm where you want to continue learning, because architecture is a continuous learning profession. There's not you don't graduate, you know everything. It's where you work at next is really important, because it's how you continue that education and learn all of the technical skills necessary to be able to become licensed, to be able to become an architect. And so once you've gathered all the hours that you need, depending on which state you're in, then you are able to take your tests. And so every person who would like to be licensed, we have to go through another testing period. We're out of school, but we're still being tested. And so there's 4 different tests that you have to take. And you have to pass the tests, like most tests. And then once you pass all of the tests and you have completed all of your hours, then you are able to then receive your kind of notary stamp. And then you are technically able to call yourself an architect. And then you're able to technically have your own practice or start leading projects on your own, and be able to sign off on your projects and your drawings and say, I deem that this is safe. I take legal responsibility. And then people get to live in your spaces and live in the buildings that you create. And it's kind of like a satisfying moment. Oh, I see things in the chat. I can't.
A lot of those are resources that I was dropping in
Okay.
there, but we do have one question. Monica is curious about salary. So how much architects get paid?
Okay, so that's a good one. So it depends on where you live. If you are, I'm in Virginia. And so generally speaking, a student fresh out of school in architecture with little to no experience. I mean, most people do have internships while they're in school, but with little to no experience, I would say you should confidently be able to ask for at least 50 to 55,000 as far as coming out of school. As far as talking with a lot of my colleagues, that's kind of the comparable that I've witnessed that happens. Sometimes you find things that are lower, sometimes you find things that are a bit higher. Again, that's really dependent upon expertise, especially when you think about the higher end of that. But I would confidently say that you should be able to achieve between 50 and 55 for your first time out of school with an accredited degree, with a bachelor's and or a master's. Do I enjoy doing what I do? I do. I really enjoy doing what I do. Um, as I mentioned before, I had a weird path into architecture, um, starting out with engineering and then going in and getting my degree, but then kind of redefining or fine tuning what kind of architect I wanted to be. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not really into buildings that much, but I'm more into communities. So I've really tried very hard to structure the latter part of my education and my position at my firm to really focus, to allow me to focus on specifically communities and how I can directly work with communities, be in communities, and collaborate with communities. So that was something that I tried to do and be very intentional about, so that way I could very much enjoy doing what I enjoy doing, which is collaborating with communities to create spaces that they enjoy and that are also resilient. Again, as I mentioned before, I like to make sure to include context of climate change into my projects because it's something that is impacting us, and I want to make sure to be respectful of that. In relation to college costs, your profession, was it worth it? What type of architect am I? Yeah, so I went to Hampton University for my master's in architecture. And they're averagely priced, I think, for an architecture school. What I did do, because I was a little bit older going into my master's in architecture, and I had a kid. So I took advantage of our local community college, and I took as many courses as I possibly could at that community college, so I didn't have to pay private school prices, which cut down my costs dramatically. So don't be afraid to not to think through ways to cut costs on that, because school can get expensive, and it doesn't take away from your experience or anything like that. So I would definitely encourage looking at that. A lot of community colleges, especially technical schools that have really large kind of architecture schools around them, they do partner with them, and they do have agreements. And so I definitely highly recommend to look into that. One, because they cover kind of that applied side. So they'll give you that education, but they kind of, they force you to this application. So it's not just theory. Whereas in some architecture schools, you just get a lot of theory as far as education. So I think it offers a really nice balance as well when you get into architecture school. What type of architect am I? So I am primarily a planner, specifically a resilience planner. So my day-to-day is not building buildings. My day-to-day is looking at a community or looking at a campus, and kind of understanding what their financial and ecosystem looks like. What is the culture of the community? What's the culture or the essence of the campus or the community? What are their climate impacts? Are they located near a river? Where are they located geographically? And then helping them create kind of a master plan of, well, how do we responsibly use the land that we have? Do we need a new building here? Do we need to invest in more park open space? So I am very much looking at that 30,000 foot level at communities and campuses, really helping them steward, right? How they're going to build and develop culturally and in their built environment over time. There are PhDs for architecture. One of my professors at Hampton had a PhD. It's not necessary to have a PhD to practice architecture. I think once you start getting to the PhD, the culture of that is, it's really just kind of, you have a deep interest in this. You have a deep bench in what it is that you want to explore and understand, and just further building your skill set. I do know that most people who do have PhDs in architecture do teach, because that seems to be where the passion really lies at, with furthering your education in the field. But they do have PhD programs that are available for architects. What type of mathematics courses are required? You don't need calculus, but you do need algebra and the higher level of algebra, so algebra 2 and algebra 3. And the reason for this is because architects are kind of jack of all trades. When you go to school in architecture, you kind of have to learn a little bit about engineering, a little bit about environmental systems, a little bit about mechanical systems, because you're responsible for kind of pulling all that information together and seeing how it all may fit and turning that into design. So you do have to be able to do a little bit of math when it comes to what is the structurally sound, right? To help you understand, you know, what size beams and poles need to be integrated into the design. So it is necessary to know a little bit of math. Do you use a lot of it actually in practice? Not a lot, but you do use it a lot in school. Once you get out into the world and you have a job, you're usually partnered with like an engineer, civil or mechanical, and they do their own calculations. But it is helpful for you to understand kind of where they're coming from, because it makes that collaboration between you and your consultants just that much easier. And so I guess I have a question for you all. What do you did you have any preconceived ideas of architecture or what you thought architecture was? Yeah, has anyone ever talked to another architect? And you can put it in the chat, or you can, you know, take yourself off mute. I won't bite.
Well, Ashley.
Hello, can you hear? Oh,
there
hello,
you
can you
go.
hear me, Ashley?
Yes.
So I'd like to know, did you have any opportunity when you were in high school to follow an architect around or have any exposure to this career?
So when I was in high school, we had a drafting program, and it was a 3-year program. And my teacher was an architect. And she was a wonderful woman, and I got to learn a lot from her. But I think it was just because of my inclination to math. I was positioned a lot with engineers for kind of my shadowing through high school. So I did not in high school. I did not, but I had classmates who did follow or work or shadow with architects during our high school careers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you see a lot of women in this field? Yes and no. I'm seeing more women in the field. Architecture is a predominantly male field, but there are more women. There's more women-owned firms that are coming up. There's more diversity overall that's happening within architecture. So you do see it. And it is, like I said, it's a smaller number of proportion, but it is growing. And a lot of that has to do with access too. Architecture is pretty demanding. As far as kind of like the education, we're in the professional side. So it's like going to school to be a doctor or going to school to be a lawyer, right? We're all kind of that professional level of education, because we all have to get licensed or accredited after we graduate. We all have to do some type of internship, all right, before we can claim ourselves to be the profession that we're in. And so it's just really demanding. And so like myself, I'm a mom of 2. And I was a mom of 1 going through architecture school. And so it's a lot to have to juggle kind of that day-to-day life and that dedication. But it is definitely possible. And, you know, never be afraid to ask for help and or assistance. Um, but I think, that's probably one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of women in architecture, but that number is growing, and it's really exciting to see that. Would you consider this a stable career? I've heard often that you need to be a well-known architect to have a steady income, but this thankfully doesn't seem to be true. No, we all don't need to be star architects. No one likes star architects. I mean, we like star architects, they're cool, but we all don't have to be star architects. Architecture is pretty stable. What is really lovely about architecture is that your firm kind of starts to become your family, right? Because you're with these people day in, day out. You're not only working with them every day, but you're working with them to help build spaces and places and communities for other people, right? So you find that the people you work with, you grow to have a lot in common. You grow to kind of see the world and want to experience the world and kind of bring the beauty of design to the world in the same way. And so once you kind of find, the firm that you vibe with, that fits with you, you kind of end up staying there, right? And it's kind of hard to cut you away then, right? Because then you're kind of family. So it's, it's pretty stable in that aspect. And yeah, you do have a steady income. I have never had to experience anything not stable with architecture. Everyone always needs a building, right? Or that building to be renovated, or that building to be looked at. We're always re-envisioning and rethinking how we want to exist in our communities, in our spaces, in our green spaces. And so it's a career that, is always needed, right? And so there's no kind of like fear of that going away, unless we all go into the virtual, right? These are some really good questions.
So Ashley, I've got a question for you. If we don't have any coming in from the audience, I'm kind of curious about the sort of different types of architects that one can be. So, I'm thinking about, I've known architects that are like the technical whizzes in the firm who learn all the software and are doing really cool things with AI and VR, to those architects that are really great at specifications and doing drawings. So I wonder if you could share a little bit about the different sort of types of architects that one might be able to be.
Yeah. So architects, I like to think architects are kind of like, getting a degree in architecture is one of the coolest things ever, because once you get a degree in architecture, you literally can do anything and everything, right? Like there's people who graduated with a degree in architecture and now they're policymakers. There's people who have graduated and now they're lawyers. There's people who have graduated and they work in construction. They're, they don't do architecture, but they build in construction, or they open a business, or my friend, he creates digital spaces and stages for concerts, right? So he's not your traditional sense of architect. And the reason for that is because you're trained kind of like I said before, you're like a jack of all trades. You kind of have to learn a little bit of everything to be an architect. And so as Rhea was mentioning, within a typical architecture firm, there's different expertise that you'll find. For instance, like I said, I'm a resilience planner. So my expertise is really dealing with building in the data and the understanding and the planning behind how those impacts affect us, right, in a community and in a state, right? My coworker who sits next to me in my office, he's a spec writer. So that's someone that pulls together a document that outlines, for lack of a better way of saying this, is the biography of a material and how that material is composed, how that material, what that breakdown of that material is, and how that material is to be used in a project. That's a spec writer. And the reason we need them is because the job of an architect is to create the designs for the building, create how the building is to be able to put it together. But then we have to communicate that to our construction side. So it starts with us, but it doesn't end with us. So we have to be able to detail out every component of what it means to put this building together and then give that to the construction side. So specs help the construction side understand how they can find the material, gives them specific directions on what kind of material we need to make sure that it does what we need it to do structurally and or aesthetically, and it tells them how it can be put together. So there's people in the firm that are architects that specifically only do that. There are people in the office who specifically are project managers. So they don't touch a drawing, and a drawing is like the blueprints I'm sure you're all aware of. Their job is really coordinating all of the meetings and all of the conversation that happens between us who create drawings and then the client. Because there's that level and aspect of being an architect that is actually doing the work, but then managing the work, right? So you have people that are primarily just project managing. And then you have architects who are really great at drawing details. So when you look at a building and you're looking at the corner of a building where one wall meets another wall, right? Someone actually details that out and specifies and draws through what it means to connect this one wall to the other wall. And that's their job. That's what they specialize in. That's what they'll do for most of the projects. And that role is important because how they define that gets directly conveyed to the construction contractor. And then that's how the contractor knows how to build that wall. So there's various ways of how, once you actually graduate and get a job, what you can define as your specialty within a firm.
Awesome, thank you. So we are beginning to run out of time. So I wanted to just offer up a sort of last chance to ask questions. And while folks might be thinking of that, I'll just take a moment to let the teachers in the audience know that who might be interested in bringing in some architecture, engineering, construction into the classroom, that we have some activity sheets and lesson plans that are correlated to the Virginia SOLs. We work with the educational consultant to get that taken care of. They're right on our website. So I'm going to drop those into the chat for the group. They'll have activities that, maybe you'll take a look at where to put windows for shading and energy use, or resilience, recovering from a hurricane, to maybe putting together a net zero building. That means a building that is not a drain on the energy grid, but can produce its own energy. So, and if we don't see any questions coming in, Ashley, I would love to ask you a question about resiliency, because you talked about it. And I know that's a big focus of yours, but can you talk a little bit about what that means when you're talking about a resilient building?
Yeah. So resilience really touches on, the ability and the capacity for what we're designing and how we're operating as individuals or a community or a building to bounce back from some kind of traumatic event. And then being proactive and understanding that this may not be the only time we experience something traumatic. So then how do we carve a way to navigate through that so that we're not impacted as much later? So my work involves a lot with collaborating with scientists, actually. Our local Sea Grant, I work with them hand in hand, and they kind of give me a lot of data that lets me know, what is our heat index in Virginia and how is that going to be changing over time? And then understanding that piece of data helps me inform our building. So how can my building over a 100-year period really respond to that heat impact, right? How can I think about the position of my building differently to where it cools itself naturally versus having to build this huge heavy HVAC system to cool the building, or how a building can capture more water because we're going to have a drought in the next couple of years or so. So then how can I think about my building capturing its water and reusing its water so that way my building owner doesn't have to pay a whole bunch of money for water when it becomes scarce, right? Or thinking through energy costs, making sure that my building has a lot of daylighting so that when energy costs do spike, my client doesn't have to pay that bill for their building, right? So just really thinking through any and all impacts that can happen to my building or to my community, and then finding a solution for that that can help them navigate that. So that's kind of the high level of resiliency. It gets into a lot of deep dive data stuff, but the high level is just making sure that we think through everything. And so that everyday things, even to really huge devastating disasters like hurricanes that come through. How can I design a building to withstand a certain amount of winds so that we know that up to 170 miles an hour, the building will stand and keep its occupants safe. So that's the type of work and research actually that I do at my firm, Hanbury.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I want to thank everybody in the audience for joining us today, for the really great questions that came in. The work-based learning team for helping us to organize this and stay connected with the schools in Virginia. And then, of course, thank you so much, Ashley, to you for sharing your experience and your pathway into the profession, and to your firm, Hanbury, for allowing the time for you to engage with us in this way. So I hope to see everyone in November, and then every month after that until April. If you have any questions or you want to get connected with an architect or an architecture firm in your community, you can certainly let me know. And then for those who participated in the program today, I'll be following up with a certificate of achievement indicating that you have participated. So hopefully I will see you again in November. Thank you, everyone.
Bye all.